You're listening to Beauty and Beyond Playbook. I'm your host, Mitsy Hernandez. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're a loyal listener and if you're new, welcome to the podcast. We talk all things radical self-trust, how to get your clients to trust you so that you make more money, and how to completely change your life through the power of trust. Okay, let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about fear of rejection and how that prevents us from living our most authentic life and fully expressing ourselves the way we want, okay? So let's talk about what it's like to live in the fear of rejection. When you live in constant fear of rejection, you are obviously going to be people pleasing, or you're going to make yourself smaller. You're not going to express your talent and your unique perspective on life, which, by the way, is very much needed. Everybody's perspective of how life works and how to do things is very much valid, not just a few people, especially like in the beauty industry. You see only a few people's point of view shown. Everyone's matter because everyone comes from a different background on how they grew their business or how they are growing their business. And so it's very important that you share yours because you could inspire someone. You play it safe online. I see this a lot. A lot of girls will be like, what kind of things do you want to see from my content in their stories? And I always say, I want to see more of you. Because 9 times out of 10, I don't even know who the fuck is going to be doing the service. Are you going to be doing the service? Is someone else going to be doing the service? Am I going to vibe with you? We don't know because you're too afraid of showing yourself, right? You're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of being seen. You're afraid of what people are going to think. You're afraid if you show yourself too much, certain people aren't going to like you. You play it very safe with your branding. You see this a lot when people are like, oh, you finally found a versatile lash artist. And they show like all this lash styles they can do, but that is actually alienating your perfect client. You're opening up the doors for clients that are not to your most authentic self, your most aligned business. You hesitate, like I stated, to share personal stories, and you may feel like you don't have a true connection to yourself and to others because you are constantly kind of shielding yourself. And it's very normal. It's very natural. I used to do it. I know anyone who starts in the online space, they have a fear of rejection. Okay. So first and foremost, you want to understand what causes this fear of rejection. Inside of the trust journey, I talk a lot about different systems that we live in specifically the United States, but for sure most of the world lives in this type of systems, and how sometimes they place certain fears in our brain and our heads that we are not even aware are not ours. So for example, in patriarchy, right? If you're familiar with patriarchy is a system where men hold most of the power in government, in the household, in ownership and financial wealth. That's what happens, right? Because of patriarchy, women are taught to be submissive. Women are taught that a man is coming to save you. Women are taught that the most important thing they need to focus on is being a mother and being a wife, right? Think of your brain as a computer, and software is being downloaded into your brain every single day from the moment you're born into the moment you die, right? And it's up to you. Obviously, when you're a child, it's hard for you to not take on that software if no one is willingly telling you not to take on that, if no one is teaching you otherwise, if your parents are also telling you that software is normal and it's okay, then of course you're going to take on that software. But once you become an adult, once you're 16 and up, even though 16 is not an adult, that is not what I'm saying, but I think around 16, women definitely can think for themselves. Once you're 16 and up, it is your job to figure out, does this software serve me or does it hurt me, right? And I talk a lot about this inside of the trust journey, how you can decipher what beliefs are yours and what beliefs are not yours. And so when we talk about what is the root cause of fear, you could sit here and think, okay, you could literally pinpoint it to my mom used to always reject me, or one of my mentees went to an all-white school and she was a person of color and she didn't fit in. And so she thought she was ugly. She had very low self-esteem. I went to a very white school because of the town that I lived in. If you're familiar with my story, I grew up in a bumfuck ass, small ass town in North Carolina, and it was mainly white people. And when you go to a school like that and you have ethnic, quote unquote, ethnic features, for example, I had curly hair, I had darker hair. Also, I was chubbier than like my counterparts. You feel ugly, right? Why? Because again, there's like a system, because it's so easy for us to like look at that one bully you had and say like, this bully made me feel this way. But if you take a step back as an adult, you realize that there is a system that we all exist in that continues to tell us that if you look this way, if you sound like this, if you're very feminine, quote unquote feminine, whatever the fuck that is, right? And I say whatever the fuck that is because of the stereotypical way that people have shown femininity to be. It doesn't necessarily present itself exactly like that, right? If you're not that, then you are going to be rejected. You are not going to fit in. You're not going to be like someone that people want to be around, or you're not going to be loved, or men are not going to want to date you. When you realize that, yes, your bully probably said that. Yes, your mom probably said that. Maybe your dad even continued to say things to you that made you feel like you were constantly going to be rejected. Maybe your classmates. Yes, we can pinpoint the fear to people and we can try to work it out through those people. But I want you to understand that the reason that the fear of rejection continues is not just because of those people. It continues because you continue to say that to yourself because you are unaware of the systems that you currently live in and how some of those systems, example, patriarchy, will download software into your brain that you don't even want. So you want to reject that. You don't want to accept that. But until you learn the systems you're in and what beliefs they put in your brain, it's going to be hard. So yes, the first thing is to understand the root cause of the fear. Is it yours? Is it that it came from your mom? Or is it that it came from the society that you live in? Understand that there are societal pressures that completely shape your mindset. I do touch on it inside of the trust journey about essentially the three systems that we all live under, especially if you live in the United States, is patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism, right? And there's pros and cons to all of it, right? There's pros to being under patriarchy, pros to being under white supremacy, and pros to being under capitalism. But there's also a large amount of cons. And so you want to understand, where does all of this come from? And once you understand where it comes from, you can then choose to say, well, I don't want to live under this belief system. I can operate in this system, but I don't have to agree that I have to look this way. The standard of beauty for women to be so thin, that comes from patriarchy and white supremacy, like woven together. So it doesn't necessarily mean that is how you have to look in order to be loved or be accepted from society. This comes up a lot with my mentees where they're afraid to show themselves because they're like, what if people think I'm fat? And it's so easy for me to be like, girl, get rid of that. Don't think that way. Like, love yourself. When there is a system that every day is showing you that people that win, people that find their happily ever after, people that whatever, they look a certain way. And so what your brain is taking in is, I don't look that way, so I may not have that. So that's why understanding the systems is very important, and seeing that it's not individual people just like shoving that shit down your throat, but it's society as a whole. Now that you figured that out, you need to reframe your perspective on what rejection is, right? Because think about it. If your fear of being rejected is because you do not adhere to societal norms to be thin or societal norms to look a certain way, that does not mean that someone will not stumble across your page and not love you. Like, side note, I randomly stumbled across Lola Young's TikTok. Like, I've heard the song Messy for a while, but I randomly stumbled across her actual TikTok. That girl, she mixes so many fashion aesthetics and it works for her and it's beautiful. And while there are people that are going to stumble across her page and be like, what the fuck is this going on? Like, why does she look this way? Those people are not for her. And this is where you rely heavily on radical self-trust, right? You trust that who you are is good enough. You trust that who you are will attract your perfect tribe, right? Everyone is not going to fuck with me. I remember when I very first started my podcast, I had a girl say to me, You keep doing you, girl. You keep cursing. People that like that kind of language are gonna like you. And it never occurred to me that people wouldn't like me cursing because I just curse all the time. That is just the way I express myself. I'm fine with that. I don't want to be more quote unquote feminine. I don't want to change my tone of voice. I like my raspy voice. I like my cursing. I like the way I express myself. Like I've stated many, many, many times, I believe I am very intelligent. So the way that I express myself does not bother me. While I do think that there are people that probably hear me talk and think I'm ignorant, I don't give a fuck. Because once you get to know me, I'm actually very smart. So I don't care. But that's because I've never had a complex about the way I talk. Does that make sense? But if you have a complex about the way you think you should sound, the way you think, should I curse, should I not curse, should I act this way, should I not act this way, you are lacking radical self-trust. And this is where self-trust obviously is going to come up and tell you and help you, guide you during this path of who should I be? Who should my brand be? How should I show up online? Where do I feel safe and comfortable? Because I'm also not going to be stupid and tell you, oh, randomly just one day be completely yourself online, because your nervous system is not going to be ready for that. You have not worked on your radical self-trust long enough for it to be there as a solid foundation. So you have to take baby steps to grow that trust to then fully express yourself. Radical self-trust is going to tell you that if someone stumbles across your page and doesn't like the way you present yourself, good, great, get the fuck out of here. Why? Because when you enter my room, you're not going to like me here either. And if it means that I have to be a different person in my room, I would just prefer not to work on you. And I know that some people are like, that's not the way I want to operate business. Like, I want to operate business from the lens of always being very professional and working with everyone. You do you. I have done that. I've been in business for 10 years, and for the first, I want to say 4 years of my life, I worked with anyone and everyone, and I would just become whoever that person needed me to be, and it's fucking exhausting. It's exhausting. Like, by the time you leave work, you're like, who the fuck even am I? Because it's so exhausting to deal with so many personalities, whereas now I only deal with personalities I genuinely like. If after a while I realize me and this personality does not match, and I'm having a hard time, I'm finding myself contorting into weird personalities, then I will fire that client. Or let him go. Fire sounds so mean. I'll let him go. Okay. Also, understand that rejection is just a natural part of growth and creativity. Everyone's not going to love you. Everyone does not like J. Cole. Everyone does not like Drake. I am a Drake fan, okay? I used to be a huge J. Cole fan growing up, and most people around me did not like J. Cole. That's okay. I love Gucci Mane or old Gucci Mane. People don't like Gucci Mane. That's okay. I like Young Thug. People don't like Young Thug. That's okay. Drake. A large amount of people hate Drake. That's okay. I love Drake. I love everything he does. I love his corniness. I love everything about him. I love his industry persona. I love his weirdness. I love the way he expresses himself. I just do. Everyone doesn't have to like him. You don't even have to agree with the shit that I'm saying. You could be listening and yelling at your phone or your speaker and being like, I hate Drake. That's okay. That is part of growth and creativity. Everyone's not going to like you. And that's okay. That's okay. But it's about using radical self-trust and learning how to calm your nervous system for you to feel safe when people are not liking you. And if you're finding yourself having issues with showing up as yourself, even in social settings that have nothing to do with business, it's because you lack radical self-trust and you have not learned how to regulate your nervous system. And I'm going to teach all of that instead of the trust journey. Okay, another thing, embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability, especially right now, if you listen to my last podcast episode where I talk about what I'm doing to prepare for January and February, which is notoriously slow months for me, I talk about how storytelling is in right now. Storytelling is like the way to go when it comes to marketing and making content, and vulnerability is going to be one of them. People want to know your story. People want to feel like they connect to you, and you have to be okay with rejection when you're being vulnerable. Not everyone is going to hear the same thing. For example, when I very first started all of this, I used to only talk to Latina lash artists, and I had a white lash artist comment on one of my posts where I was talking specifically to Latina lash artists, and she was like, this has nothing to do with being Latina. You are alienating people. You are causing a divide. You're a part of the problem. She's white. She's white, so how the fuck would she know how we feel as Latinas? She would not know. She has never experienced life as a Latina. So I found that very interesting, but I was being vulnerable to my core group. and not everyone has to like it, not everyone has to agree. It's completely okay. Also understand that when you are being vulnerable, you're going to develop deeper connections and you're going to be able to be authentically yourself. Obviously, there is a time and place, especially as people of color, where you cannot authentically be yourself all the time. I comprehend that. There's a little bit of code switching that you're going to want to do, but even in that, you're going to use a lot of radical self-trust to figure out how much code switching do you do. Like I stated, when I very first started my business, I used to literally be a different person for every single client just because A, I wanted the money, and then B, I myself lacked a bunch of radical self-trust. I didn't even know how to show up. And while code switching is very important, when you code switch so much throughout the day, you leave exhausted. Whereas now I am myself, I want to say 98% of the time, and I do code switch about 2% of the time. So I'm not going to lie and say that I don't. Make sure that you share your thoughts and feelings even when it feels risky. So again, even when it doesn't have anything to do with business, try doing it with your friends. Try doing it with your family. Try doing it with your loved ones. Do it when it feels scary and be okay with rejection, right? Like you see this a lot in dating where people are so afraid of being rejected. If you have been listening to me and you watch my stuff long enough, you know I'm not a big dater. I maybe date once or twice a year. It's very rare that I date. But when I do date, I am very honest about my feelings. Like if I really like someone, I will tell them, like, I really like you. I wish we could have made it work. It didn't work. Or I really like you. How are you feeling? Would you like to make this work? Like I'm very honest. And I have been rejected plenty of times. Trust and believe I have. But I have also rejected people. That is part of the process. You cannot save yourself from hardship in this life. You just cannot. I talk about this a lot in other podcast episodes. Life is hard and everyone is dealing with their own shit. So sometimes when you're being rejected, you're not even rejected for you, you're being rejected for them. So definitely don't take it too personal. Okay, it is very important for you to develop a supportive network. I talk about this a lot. When I very first started, I had very critical friends that did not want to see me succeed. And I don't mean succeed in a sense of they didn't want me to make money. They just didn't want me to have more confidence than they had. Now, do I think that they woke up and they were malicious every day? Fuck no. But do I think that subconsciously they did not like that I would rise in confidence? Fuck yeah. Because they were so critical of me. They were constantly tearing me down. If someone is that mean, it's usually because they're really mean to themselves also. And because of that, again, I struggled so much with radical self-trust because every time I thought I made a good decision and I would share it with my quote-unquote friends, they would tear it down. And so it would break down my radical self-trust. So make sure that the people around you lift you up. Also, make sure that if they do lift you up, make sure that they are not yes men. You do not want yes men on your team. Not at all. You want people that want to see you grow with love. I was surrounded by people that acted like they wanted to see me grow, but they never showed love. They showed a lot of hate or mean words towards me. So make sure that your circle, your network, that they are loving but want to see you grow. Make sure that you surround yourself with people that are not afraid of rejections. Watching someone you love do things that normally you would never do because of your fear of rejection inspires you to go out and do the thing. Always make sure that you can trust the people around you so that you can trust their feedback, because if the people around you are trustworthy people, it adds to your radical self-trust instead of taking away. I just shared my story of how every single time I was like working on my radical self-trust, it would get tore down by the people around me to the point that I couldn't trust my friends or my fucking self. It was awful. The number one skill that I'm definitely going to recommend, and I'm going to talk about it a lot inside of the trust journey, is self-compassion. We are so good at seeing somebody struggle and hugging them and telling them it's going to be okay and giving them words of encouragement, but we do not do that with ourselves. Why? I don't know. Again, I have a feeling it has to do with like our parents who were raised that way. And so it's like a generational thing. But also I believe that the systems that we live in, specifically in the United States, we're very much a pull yourself up by the bootstraps type of people. Specifically, capitalism really pushes that narrative down our throat where they're like, if you're struggling, instead of you coddling yourself, and by the way, compassion is not coddling, But instead of coddling yourself, they tell you to be mean to yourself, to push yourself further. You see that like in superhero movies. I don't watch anything except like horror and superhero. But you see that in superhero movies where like their loved ones must die before they finally decide to rise to the occasion. So there's a lot of messages that we're getting from society about making sure that we go through the most pain we ever can before we can change. No, I say this every single chance I get. We do not change through pain. We do not change through meanness. We do not change through anger. We do not change through negative emotions. We truly change through love and compassion and kindness. That is the way you see someone change. If you look at a kid who is very, very angry, they will change when the adults around them, instead of disciplining him, begin to show them a lot of love and compassion. The more love and compassion I show my son, the more love and compassion he shows me and he shows his classmates. So self-compassion is going to be one of the most important skills you can learn during your radical self-trust journey. It's going to change the way you talk to yourself, because the way you talk to yourself creates your reality. If you're mean to yourself, then you think everyone around you deserves to be mean to you too. And that's, again, like me, you end up in a pickle where you have friends that talk to you the way you talk to yourself. Whereas if you talk very kindly to yourself and you're compassionate to yourself without coddling would be, let's say that you hurt someone's feelings and you made a mistake hurting this person's feelings, right? Coddling would be you saying like, well, they deserved it. They shouldn't have talked to me this way. I'm never in the wrong. I'm always doing things like the best I can. That's coddling. Compassion is you're human. You're going to hurt other people. You can work harder at it next time, but you're human and you're going to make mistakes and it's okay. How can we improve? Do you see the difference? It's vastly different. Okay, I would very much encourage you to take incremental risks. So I talk about this at the very beginning. Do not just jump out there and be like fully yourself unless you know you can handle it emotionally. I would highly, highly not recommend you do that. Do not just jump out there and be like, fuck it, I'm about to be myself 100% of the time, because your nervous system is not ready for that. You are gonna have some backlash from that, not from people, but from yourself. Have you ever had like, what do they call, oversharing hangover? Like you go out and you're like, I'm gonna be myself, and you're fully yourself, but then you leave and you feel hungover, you feel guilt, you feel shame. You're like replaying what happened in your head over and over, like, oh my gosh, should I have said that? Should I have done that? Oh my gosh, this person looked at me weird. What were they thinking? Yeah, so you wanna do it in small, incremental ways. Make sure that you're taking little small steps to express yourself in safe environments. Do it with your friends, do it with your loved ones, do it with your clients, do it with people that already know you. Share yourself a little bit more. And also go out of your comfort zone just a tiny bit online. There is nothing like getting over your fear of rejection online. Oh my gosh, when you begin to show yourself, you stop giving a fuck and you get very comfortable with yourself. When you start showing yourself from different angles, right? Like I had a girl once on my podcast say, you show yourself looking bad or something like that, something along the lines. And at first when she said it, it kind of hurt my feelings because I was like, what? Like, is that what she got out of it? She got out of it that I show myself not done up. But then I realized that for her, it was so out of her realm, right? Like for her, she would never show up online without being fully made up. That seeing me do that was like wild to her. Whereas to me, it means nothing. I don't feel any kind of way. I am comfortable with filming myself in uncomfortable angles, like not always above, not always where I look like super snatched and skinny and pretty. I film myself in bad lighting because I believe that what matters is the words coming out of my mouth, not the way that I look. Make sure that while you are doing all of this, you are working on building up your confidence, building up your radical self-trust, because until your confidence and self-trust grows, you will always be afraid of rejection. And as long as you're afraid of rejection, you will not fully be yourself. You will not be authentically yourself. And because you are not fully yourself, you will make a lot of decisions that are not aligned with your ultimate goals and who you want to be. Because you're looking to the crowd, you're looking to external factors to essentially say, that's good, I like this, be this way. We do not want to do that. We want to be able to build a lasting business that will make us happy, will fulfill us in ways that we can do it year after year, year after year. And the best way to burn yourself out is to look to external sources to basically say, yes, you're doing such a good job. Yes, keep going. And you wake up one day and you're like, I fucking hate this business. I hate who I serve. I hate who I am when I go to this business. And it's just completely going to burn you out. The trust journey is going to cover all of this for beauty professionals. I'm going to show you how to confidently step into your authentic self. I'm going to show you different skill sets. I'm going to teach you about the systems that we live in and the beliefs that they implant into your brain, that software they download into your little baby brain and continue to download every single day if you're not careful, so that you don't have to change a thing. You don't have to lose a pound. You don't have to put on makeup. You don't have to go get that surgery. And you can look in the mirror and still love yourself. If you want to lose weight, you still go and achieve those goals. Because I'm never going to say love yourself how you are and never change. Fuck no. If anything is constant in this life, it's change. But when you radically trust yourself, you can look in the mirror and see, okay, there are improvements I want to make that I'm going to work towards, like losing weight or getting a surgery, right? Like I always talk about the surgery I want to do to my face. And that doesn't mean that I love myself any less because I want surgery. I look in the mirror and I swear to God, every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, goddamn bitch, you fine as fuck. It doesn't matter if I just finished crying. It doesn't matter if I just woke up. It doesn't matter if I just finished running. It doesn't matter if I'm done up or not. I genuinely love what I see in the fucking mirror. And it's because I worked very, very hard on my radical self-trust and my confidence. And I still can want to lose weight. I still can want the surgeries because I want to do it out of love, out of joy, out of happiness, not out of fear that people aren't going to love me if I don't get the surgeries, if I don't lose the weight. If I lose the weight, yay. If I don't lose the weight, yay. I'm going to teach you how to do that inside of that program. We are going to focus so much on radical self-trust so that you get comfortable with expressing who you are authentically, so that you attract the right clients and friends and partners if you're dating that definitely aligns with your values, with who you are, where you don't feel like you constantly have to change yourself or you're constantly lacking or you're constantly insecure. Is my partner cheating on me? Are they going to leave me? Because you know that you attracted someone that genuinely loves you for you, regardless of whatever. It is going to be amazing. Your content is going to be better. Your business is going to be better. And of course, because you are authentically yourself, you will attract that loyal cult-like clientele that you desperately want, so that you always have clients in your business. I am so excited to open up doors. Like I stated in the last podcast episode, I am working really hard to get that out to you. Hopefully, I will get that out for you before the end of December. I'm working super hard. Until then, you will hear from me either in the next podcast episode or in a new YouTube video. Thank you for listening.